Thanks, Deb. Well, as usual, it's my honor to get the opportunity to come and speak before the Rotary Club about some of the happenings in the school district. So I've just prepared sort of a wide variety of items. Clearly, we just want to take some questions along the way. So if there's something that interests you along the way, certainly ask the questions as we're going, or you can wait till the end. But as usual, I'd like to start my time with talking about the district first by thanking those who make the district what it is, which is our students. Our students, our staff, our parents, and quite literally people in this room and our community is what makes our school excellent and makes it a place for kids to foster their creativity and try new things and to excel at things that are going to make them excellent in life. And so we wanted to thank all those people that had that, their contributions for that. As it states here, we excel because of our partnerships, whether that's our partnerships with folks in the room or the city or the state of South Dakota or USD or Sanford. We have a lot of things that are going on in our district that are a result of partnerships that were created by our school board and by community members or the VCDC. And that allows us to bring pretty exceptional programming to our kids and to offer things that sometimes they wouldn't have the opportunity to do if they were in another school or another city. And of course, our ultimate goal is to produce really great kids that could go out and do things that they want to do in life, but ultimately, we want to do things that make our community proud of their investment, the taxpayer dollars, the time that the people put into our district, or the efforts that they volunteer in our buildings for. Our goal is to make them proud that they are representing our school and our community. So I'll start back a little bit with some details. Some folks often ask, how's that new elementary going? What's new down at that side of town now that you're out of both Austin and Jolly? So if you remember this last fall, we ended up starting school on the 21st of August. We were 4 days delayed, and that was really a result of we were scrambling at the end to get a lawn put in. We had irrigation systems. There was last minute things on the interior of the building. And early in August, we looked at with our school board and said, you know, while our building is really functional at this point, we could bring kids in. It is really not going to present as well as we'd like. And our staff still haven't really fully moved into the building. We had, if you recall, a lot of help from the community, USD football team, our own soccer teams and volleyball and football teams helped move boxes from both Austin and Jolly, trailers at a time, to the new location. But our staff hadn't had as much opportunity to get in and make that space home as they would like. So in early August, we decided we would push back our start date a few days, which everybody appreciated. And actually that start date was well received from both the staff and the families that we included that's what will start late this year. It will become the new start date. For us, will be that third week rather than the middle of the second week, so that's good. We have about 641 students and 98 staff at that location. That number fluctuates quite literally weekly with our students. We have kids that move in and we have kids that move out every week in the district, and so that number changes a little bit. As intended, that building gets a ton of use. We have some sort of activity in that building, sometimes 6 to 7 days a week, whether it's basketball or soccer or other youth groups activities in the building, or the PTO or Native American groups or whatever. We're having a lot of access to that building in the nights after school. If you go by, you'll see lights on well into the evening as well as on the weekends. And of course, one of the things that we're most proud of, with the help of a Rotary donation, we were able to raise $200,000 for the universally accessible playground. That was a really big, important topic for us when we chose to move to a new elementary, was to make sure that our elementary playground equipment was accessible to all of our students. And more importantly, or as importantly, on nights and weekends, that place has got a lot of folks on that playground, which is what we intended. Other things that we talk about when we share some of the successes of our elementary school, this is just a rendering of some of the common spaces. So if some of you that have been in the building realize what those spaces are, those are designed instructional spaces that are the center of the pod. We call it the pod, where we have grade 2 and 3 together, for example. Those folks have a common space there that they can have larger activities or gathering spaces, or really sometimes just a space for kids to lounge around a little bit when they have an opportunity to get out of class and do something. And so that's been a very popular space, and it's kind of worked as we intended, which is create more places for collaborative learning for students. So we brought a Native American artist, cartoonist to town in the fall, and that served well to put 150 kids in that setting. When you move the furniture out of there, kids had a comfortable place. They had whiteboards and TVs and things that we could demonstrate from. But the acoustics in there were great for our artists, and the kids didn't have to go into the gym or the commons and disrupt another class period of another class. So we were pretty happy that those have worked as intended. But something that's been really, we didn't talk a lot about when we were building is, of course, we put some effort into trying to find the best systems that would be for heating and cooling and lighting and things, because we knew that there'd be an opportunity for future savings along the way by putting in a little bit more expensive product at the beginning, but we'd reap the rewards over time. What we were benefiting also was some immediate payback, because our lights, LED lighting in our chiller units, which is the system we use to cool our building down, running them through air handlers, gave us $77,000 in rebates. So that was $77,000 that was able to be thrown right back into the project and help finish things around the playground, or help with the sod or the irrigation or other things that might have crept up in price during the construction. The other thing that we did is, as you heard from us talking about early on, is partnering with the city, is entering into a sales tax rebate program that we would be able to capture some of the sales tax that our vendors were sending materials like steel or rooftop units or other things that were brought to the site. The city was able to capture state and city sales tax on that, and they gave us a rebate back of that sales tax of $52,000, which we certainly appreciate. It's $52,000 once again that the taxpayers benefited from, and we were able to put back into the project. So that's an important partnership there with the city. One of the challenges we talked about early on was, how are we going to manage the large volume of kids and traffic on Dartmouth Street and with our pickup and drop-off area? You heard me talk about it in the fall a little bit about, in theory, we had 4 lanes of drop-off in the front of the school plus the street for all of our town kids, and then we had the busing in the back to deliberately separate that. But we were parking that right next door to the middle school, who already had busing and their own set of parents that were picking up and dropping off. So way early in the 2022-2023 area, we did that transportation study with the state of South Dakota, and they highlighted the fact that if we can keep the traffic flowing there and we put the proper mechanisms on our own site, the driving lanes, pickup lanes, that we would be able to accommodate those number of volumes of cars. So the very first day of school, we had cars that were backed up nearly to Austin. If that's 3 blocks, and that's a lot of cars that are waiting to drop kids off or pick kids up. So we were a little sweating a little bit the first few days. I think we got our kids out of school that first day at 3:30, right at 3:30 or so. That's 20 minutes of dismissal. That's a long time. And then by the second day, we had shaved about 8 minutes off. And then by the third day, we were at about 3:18, 3:16. And by the end of the first full week of school, we were down to about 3:15, which is about 7 minutes to empty that building of 600 kids. So we've mastered that. We still have hiccups once in a while, but the parents have really helped out, because they are kind of coming naturally in shifts. If they know that their child is maybe a little bit tardy from coming out of class and generally doesn't get out of class till 3:15, they come at 3:15, 3:20, and they get right in line, and boom, they can pick their child up. Other people, sometimes we have people that back up and park there at 2:30, 40 minutes before we dismiss, and that kind of gives us a little bit of backlog once in a while, but we've dealt with that. And We did provide a video for parents and maps about how this could work and should work, and they've been very helpful along with our staff to kind of keep that moving. So we think that that's worked out very well. The continued use of that building, we had a Native American Fall Festival in there that had 100 or so participants this fall. The youth soccer program brought in 29 teams a month ago with over 500 guests in that building. So that gave us our first real test of what's it like to have 500 people roaming around at the same time. We had the elementary 2 gyms and the middle school gym hosting youth tournaments from teams from Mitchell to South Sioux City and every place in between. And it really did hold up well considering the amount of volume and traffic they had. And then the PTO hosted their carnival in there a week ago. And again, they had 300 plus kids and parents running around in there, and things worked out really well. Obviously, there's things that we learn as we get more and more of these larger groups in there, that some things that we need to do, or we need to unlock that or lock that, and it's worked out pretty well so far. You can't read all of these, so I'll try to kind of keep it brief to you. This is some more of a district overview. Right this time of the year, we're about 1,356 kids. We're down 40 students from enrollment from last year. Every time I come and talk to you, previous to this year, I've told you we've been growing. And sometimes we've grown by as many as 80 kids in a year, or 50 kids, or just a dozen kids a year. This is the first year that I'm reporting that we're down, and we're down 40 kids, which is significant. No real reason. It wasn't like we closed an industry and lost a factory. It was just an accumulation of a lot of families that had come and gone and moved and took their kids with them. And so that's something that we have to keep our eye on naturally. In our district, we have 189 staff and 5 school board members. A few of our success stories, of course, I mentioned this one earlier, the grants and donations for the playground. That's one that we're really proud of, and we continue to see the benefits of that playground, and we will for the long term. But we also had a really good year, the last year and a half or so, of writing grants and doing other things for instructional purposes. And one of those was our Innovation and Improvement Grant that we wrote specifically for the high school. We captured $400,000 in a 4-year grant from the state. And it has literacy training at the high school, trying to bring back some basics of literacy and writing components broad across the curriculum there. So our high school staff will all go through that training. But a large portion of that was an investment in our JAG program, Jobs for America's Graduates. We've been wanting to get this in place for a few years and just haven't been able to pull the trigger. But this grant fell into our laps, and we were able to fund the position through the grant. But Jobs for Americans Graduates is really a program designed for any student that's maybe an at-risk student, or maybe it's a first-generation student. Parents never went to college, maybe parents didn't graduate from high school, and these students that maybe don't know their place and what their future will be. And so it's designed with curriculum and a specific instructor that will follow these kids through 4 years of school and help guide them about the curriculum choices and maybe what their goals are in life. Are they going to be a student that goes right into military or right into work, or are they going to be college bound? And this person is an extra advisor for those kids, similar to our guidance counselors, to help them make decisions about curriculum. And the biggest thing that they get, another big thing they get to do is they get to take field trips and do internship activities that some of our other students don't have the opportunity to do, because we're designing programs to show these students that there is a place after graduation for them, and whether, again, 4-year school, maybe it's the world to work, or maybe it's military. So this person is designed to work with these students through their entire high school experience, and then get them to graduate, number one, and number two, make sure that they've got the skills that they can go on to the next phase of life that they want. Our board has completed our strategic plan last year, so we're in our first full year that we're working on our strategic plan. The goals were really just 3 big goals, and we got these goals from a parent committee, a community advisory committee, our students, and our staff. And if you maybe took advantage of those surveys about a year and a half ago, if you participated in that, that data was compiled by an outside consultant who found all the themes from all the respondents and then put them into goals for the board. And then the board worked it, massaged it to make sure that we met the needs of the district, and then it became our strategic plan. But the goals, basically, the first set of goals are based on academics, student behavior, and student supports. So that was going to be a focus for our district to work on that goal. Second one was the data analysis and professional development. Data analysis of our state assessments and our surveys to parents, but also analyzing our professional development practices. Hearing from our staff what we're doing for professional development is either working or needs more improvement or needs to be beefed up in some way because it's not hitting the mark. And then our third component was communications, public relations, and culture. Like most organizations, you're constantly trying to strive to improve your communications or your public relations or your culture, and that was a big draw for our board. When I wrote this was right around Christmas time when I was working on this particular slide, so some of this data is a little old, but some of the things that had happened in the fall that we're pretty proud of was that we had our DAC-12 Quiz Bowl champions. If you know anything about our district, in our competitiveness in the DAC-12 conference, you always hear us talk about how tough it is in basketball, how tough it is in golf, how tough it is in volleyball. And that's true, and our athletes have to compete on that. Well, it's not any less true for our academic kids because they had to go and compete against some of the best and brightest from the DAC-12 conference, and they ended up coming back winning the DAC-12 Quiz Bowl. Which they're equally as proud as any trophy that we put in our trophy case, that we've got the plaque that has the years that we've won that, and now we've won it several years in a row. Our marching band continued in the fall to win contest honors. Our cross country had a 6th place finish, boys golf a 2nd place state finish, girls tennis had a 3rd place state finish, boys soccer was our state champs. Our oral interp went to state and got a superior and a team excellence award. And then, of course, our fine arts classes, our arts class, had the state's ceramics first place award winning there. So not just our athletes, not just our academic kids, but our fine arts groups, as you can see, were well represented and well-rounded. I'll continue on with a few other grants. I mentioned earlier about some of them, but here's another grant that we talked about and pretty proud of. Is we received a federal grant for $329,000 for a security. That's been, again, we write security grants all the time, and we've made improvements in each of our buildings throughout time. However, this one now was going to tie our infrastructure to a new Vermillion Elementary. We did not have the capability prior to this for me to make a call from my office to every building at the same time and have one call. And sometimes that call might be necessary for some sort of security reason. Well, based on this security grant, we were able to upgrade all of our cameras to some of the state-of-the-art cameras there. They have facial recognition and the capabilities to really identify and zoom in on specific things that we're looking for in our crowded student body or out in our parking lot. We also did safety film application in our buildings. We did a panic system upgrades, intercom additions, and like I said, now we have the ability any one of our offices can call an all-call and communicate with every portion of our district at one time in the event that we ever needed that. Rather than making 3 or 4 separate calls, we are now able to make an instantaneous call, and hopefully we never need that system. And we also continue to partner with our Department of Homeland Security for safety assessments. We have the state of South Dakota come in and work with our principals on walking the grounds of our buildings, and then they give us basically a test, a score on where we rate on our safety features, whether it's physical structures or the intercom systems or our communication devices, whatever it is. We get a rating and a scorebook, which we continually try to update and improve. Another grant that was more designed for our health sciences and for our CTE programs was an innovative equipment grant. In the past, we've gotten dollars for simulators for skid loaders and heavy equipment operators and things. Well, this year we were able to add for $218,000 an animatage table, basically for our health science. An animatage table is like a gigantic iPad. Well, this is what it looks like. It's the same size as this table, but on the inside of it, you'd look inside and it has a human body dissected there. So our students can now go over there and push a few buttons and it'll show a skeletal system of the human body. And they can push a few more buttons and it'll add the circulatory system on top of the skeletal system. And then they can push another button and it'll be a life-size rendering of the muscular system. So it's a really neat real-life application that our students now have the opportunity to see really all kinds of things with the human body. It's got other features besides that, but that's a really cool one that our kids get the opportunity to use. Some neat things that we've added to both our art classes, our entrepreneur classes, and our CTE, career and technical education classes, is a full-size laser engraver. We now have the capability to engrave things that might be 3 and 4 feet wide and 4 or 5 feet tall and long. We have 3D simulators, and we could make things with 3D imagery and engrave those things in the past, but those were small, maybe the size of this podium. Now we've got a full-size table engraver that the kids can use, and we put that to work with one of our caged creations classes that you've heard us talk about in the past. We also had the opportunity to add a welding simulator. Sometimes you don't want kids to get their first practice on a real welder. So we invested in a welding simulator, and now this gives the opportunity for kids to practice and get the feel of a tool basically digitally without having to actually turn on and use up the real welder.
I have a question about the engraving. Like, could somebody hire you to do something?
We're talking about that with our Caged Creations class now. You remember the Caged Creations, our entrepreneur class, was one of the classes that created all of our things from our Envision Ed or our Represent Ed Finland project last year. They made the prizes, they made the lasting documents and the things that were from that. So they have the capability, but we just haven't decided how far to expand it. Right now they do things for the school and for some close partners. Will we open it up where somebody could ask and make something there? That's something we're looking at. And then finally, the plasma cutter, very much similar to the laser engraver. A plasma cutter is some of the next generation things that industry is using for CTE, and kids can use these as skill builders to go out into the real world and work, and we've got those at our building as well now. Speaking of Finland, our Represent Ed project last year, you heard us talk about solving the problem of what represents Vermillion. So in working with the city and working with the VCDC, we had the opportunity to put our kids together, use kindergarten through 12 in a partnership to say what represents Vermillion the best. And then we had hundreds of ideas. It might have been a t-shirt that was developed, or a coffee mug or things. But if you remember, the winning prize last year was a tic-tac-toe puzzle created by the students that had the puzzle pieces of, it had industry leaders, it had Masaba on there, it had a picture of Prentice Park, it had the Dakota Dome, it had a tanager, it had the Prentice Plunge, it had just things about Vermillion, and that's what the winning project was. And the city and VCDC and the school use those things now as gifts to give out to dignitaries that come to the community. This year we've expanded the Envision Ed as our 2025 project, and that is creating an outdoor learning space. We learned early in COVID that we needed to create spaces where kids could be outside and learn more because of the needs of the school at the time, or the needs of the students. In our study of Finland, which we're in year 2 of, we learned that the Finnish education system values outside time to really collaborate in the community to solve problems, but more importantly, they work together to get transversal skills in communication, teamwork, compromise, learning strategies for good life skills for kids. And so this year, our challenge to the kids, and in fact today is the preliminary round of grading and judging of that, is what would an outdoor learning space look at Vermillion Elementary, the high school, the middle school, and St. Agnes. So the kids have been creating 3D renderings and models of, maybe it's a fish pond with a park benches around it. Maybe the outdoor learning space is a climbing wall with seating areas. Maybe it's an amphitheater where teachers could take kids out and sit on faux rocks that would be created out there as just another place to teach and learn from. The kids' imagination is endless, as you can imagine. So today we are actually doing the preliminary judging of that over at the elementary school at 1:30. And then we'll have the final judging over at the Sanford Coyotes Sports Center Friday morning. And what that will be is basically we'll have judges. We have about 70 judges in the community. Some of you are in here are judging. They're going to come together and they're going to rate and grade those projects, and then we are going to make those a reality on the campuses of our school.
Just one thing to mention, I think I got this correct. Like, the team is made up of maybe a first grader and a fourth grader and an eighth grader and a junior.
Yes, yeah, great reminder. The whole idea behind our challenge is to integrate kids across curricular areas and across grade levels. So you're absolutely right. Our groups have got a seventh grader, a senior, a fifth grader, and a first grader. And the next one might have two fourth graders, a ninth grader, and a junior. And those kids have got, for the last 7 months, have had to collaborate on ideas and strategies that would be realistic and could be really neat learning spaces. But you can imagine that it takes a lot of discussion and a lot of compromise. And some of our older kids had to listen to little guys talk about spaceships and models that, things that they think would be great. And they had to reel that in. And then the bigger kids had to sort of organize and put these thoughts down. But you've got little guys who have endless imagination and ambition and enthusiasm, throwing ideas out like crazy. The middle group of kids, whether it's a fifth grader, seventh grader, ninth grader, they're probably in the middle trying to, sort of navigate this whole thing. And then you've got older kids who are trying to reel this group together. But eventually they will have a project. Now, honestly, part of the project is it's okay to fail. You might find something that just didn't come together, or you never really got the whole project completed. You didn't get to the 3D model version of that, and that's okay. That's part of education. It's part of learning and part of growing. So there's a lot of things besides just the end product that we gauge this on and the state standards that we're trying to teach along the way, that why we're doing this finished project. But we do know that brain breaks, collaboration, community engagement that the Finnish have perfected are things that we can copy and model here, and that's the whole purpose behind our Finnish experiment. So this year it's called Envision Ed, and it'll be concluding in the near future, and you'll hear me talking about the winning designs will be approved by our school board. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide there, we have secured an Ofsted grant of $80,000 to make sure that we can bring these landscapes to life on our campuses. Maybe that 80,000 is not enough, maybe it's way too much, but we have now secured those dollars to make sure we can make this happen and reward the kids for their efforts. So, last few things here as I wrap up. We talk about a lot of great things that are happening, and we do have a lot of things to be proud of. But we're like every organization and every school, we have challenges, and our challenges are based on real things. Enrollment is a challenge in South Dakota schools for many years. South Dakota enrollment as a state, we continue to drop. And we face that now this year here. And of course, all of our budget is based on student enrollment. So that's a concern that we'll have to deal with. Currently, we're in great financial shape, so we can weather the storm. But if this continues to be a pattern for our district, then we'll have to make decisions based on that. Other challenges is, as everybody would agree, increased or decreased state and federal involvement or regulations can cause our business some concern. With the U.S. Department of Education going through its changes now, there's going to definitely have some impact on K-12 in South Dakota or across the nation. But whether you're growing the Department of Ed or you're reducing it, there's always things that happen at that level that has a trickle-down effect on K-12 education as well as the university. Naturally, state legislature can impact our funding, taxing authority, bond elections, and levies. Each year, we go to lobby at the state level about things that we want to do to promote K-12, and sometimes we have to fight off bad legislation to try to make sure that K-12 isn't impacted. But it is a challenge for us, and it was a particularly difficult year for K-12 education this year, and the government did settle on a 1.25% increase for state aid for us for the K-12 portion of the funds. So we'll be dealing with that and going into negotiations with our staff here very soon with a 1.25% increase. Just like your own environments at home, it doesn't even meet the cost of inflation, and some of the the things that are going up, whether it's insurance or fuel or vehicle costs or whatever, those are all things that we have to pull out of our 1.25% besides all the salaries for all of the staff. Increasing the education needs of students, just the things that we're dealing with in education now are just getting more challenging. We're dealing with increased behaviors or increased medical needs of students, and sometimes that requires specialties, whether it's additional nursing staff or a specialized teacher or one-to-one people to be with students. Those are happening nationwide. It's not anything just for Vermillion, but it's just another thing that becomes a challenge that we have to manage, that whether we need to increase staff or departments based on the needs of the kids coming into the buildings. Decreasing the number of people entering the profession, just like of many professions, there's less people that want to be janitors or teachers or administrators or paraeducators. And so often we're working without a full staff, and that's just something that's going to be a challenge, and it has been since really prior to COVID, but after COVID it became a bigger challenge, like it has in almost every industry. And finally, just in general, one of our biggest challenges is just societal decay. You just look at the world today, and there's just a lot of unhappiness, there's just a lot of dysfunction, there's just a lot of things that people are putting out in society that trickles into K-12 education, and that can be harmful to staff and kids, and we do our best to make sure that we can deal with that. Social media, the negative influences, particularly of social media, plays a large role of the mental health concerns we see in school, or anxiety and depression among youth. It's well documented, the association between social media usage and K through 12 students' anxiety. And we see that here, just like everybody across the nation sees. So we've brought in special education components. We brought in lawyers to talk to kids about the ill effects of social media. We've brought in mental health experts to talk about to parents. Had parent sessions about if your child is on their device for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, this is what the impact it could have on them long term, and the changing of their development of their brain, especially the younger they are. And so we're dealing with those. And then just the erosion of the family is a challenge. We just have things that are in society that are causing students to come to school with some hurt or some damage and trauma that we have to help with. And it's our goal to try to make that all better while they're with us. So even with those challenges, you can see we talk about the fact we hire great people to come in and care for young folks every day, give their hearts and their minds to kids, and try to provide opportunities for kids to excel and be anything they want. They can be anything they want in life, and that's our message to them every day, is you just have to come, show up, be attentive, and what your dreams can come true. And so other recent news there, I'll just quickly go through that. This is just some updates from just the last 4 or 5 weeks here. Our one act play we received an excellence award at state. Boys and girls basketball had a number of athletes that were considered all conference. One of our students was selected to the National Honor Choir, which is a great achievement. Our wrestling team had 4 medalists at state, including our first ever female wrestler. Blair Merkwan was our first female wrestler to compete at state and win a 5th place medal for our wrestling team, which we're proud of. Our pep band, which we are recognized well for in the area, got the opportunity to show off its skills at the state A basketball tournament. Our robotics kids, although this is a club sport outside of school, both of those earned state awards for excellence and teamwork. And for those who didn't know, Tom O'Boyle, our middle school principal, is going after 44 years in education. He is retiring and has going to settle off and just enjoy his retirement. And we've replaced him with Becky Sanderson. She's a local gal here in Vermillion, and she'll start as middle school principal this summer. And then Kim Johnson will move back to full-time curriculum. She helped out with a late resignation last year and helped us out with this assistant principal position at the elementary. But Stacy Peterson, one of our local in-house teachers who has an administrative degree, will move up to be assistant principal at the elementary school. So you'll meet those guys in the near future. We did hire Louis Budmeyer. He's a staff member on staff as our new head football coach. You'll see Louis be working out with the kids this summer. And Jody Zoller is returning to our volleyball program as our head volleyball coach in the coming weeks. Well, they're already doing some out-of-season stuff now. And, of course, we're working with the city to upgrade our facilities a little bit at the Barstow Park area. We're going to, last year, our youth soccer programs had to move over to the high school because of the construction at the elementary. Now we're working on improving that complex experience over at Barstow Park, so we'll return all of that youth soccer that you're used to driving by and seeing on Saturdays back to Barstow Park and have the opportunity to see those kids excel there. And finally, just our show choir is heading to Disney next week, so they are pretty excited about that. They've worked really hard to fundraise as well as perform, and to get the opportunity to go to Disney and perform just shows you the excellence in that program as well. Trisha's done a great job there. So that's a lot of things, but I'll just conclude again with a big thank you for the people in this room and in the community in general for the things you do to support us. And we couldn't do all those great things that I mentioned earlier without the support of the financial support of you, as well as just the volunteers, the time that you dedicate to our kids in our district doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate that, and we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to share that today. So
I think we have time for like maybe 2 questions. Anybody have? Rick?
Actually, we haven't gotten very good grades for our math and our reading instruction. Where are we on that spectrum?
Yep. State of South Dakota hasn't done very well either. We have not really, I'll be honest, completely figured out why that problem exists. Is it a measurement problem with the assessment a little bit? Do our standards align with the test? 2 things are coming forth that might help that is our 11th graders starting next year will take the ACT as their assessment exam instead of the Smarter Balance. The state of South Dakota will transfer all that data and kids to the ACT in hopes that there'll be a little bit of buy-in from the kiddos to say, you know what, the Smarter Balance didn't mean anything to me. It doesn't help my grade, it doesn't hurt my grades. So what's in it for me? And we could never give them a good answer other than it's a measurement of how well we're doing as a school district if you can do well in that exam. And so we didn't see great results, I'll be honest about that. But now with the ACT being one of those measurements, we're hoping that that'll be a little better buy-in and we'll see some growth there. Below that grade level, we're just looking at a science of reading curriculum. Science of Reading is a national program that's basically phonics based. It goes back to teaching the basics of reading instruction. And so we're putting that in, have implemented that as a district to be a measurement to see if we can attack those lower performing scores. Our reading scores are better than our math, but our reading scores aren't where we want them to be. So we're trying to address those 2 things. Mr. Fry at the high school has also implemented that juniors have to take a math class starting next year as an incentive. If you do well on the Smarter Balance test, the ACT starting next year, but if you do well on that and receive a proficient, then you can be exited from taking that math course that next year. So that's a little bit internal drive, like, oh boy, I either have to take another math class next year, or if I do well enough and show proficiency as my junior year, I don't have to take that class. So that's some incentive that's built in for the kids. So we're trying a lot of different things and hoping that one of those things will be the thing that makes the difference.
Thank you so much.
All right, very good. Thanks, guys.
Just a shameless plug for the Chamber's website, VCDC. If you go to livevermillion.com, you can actually purchase the tic-tac-toe boards on our website. We buy them from the school and we sell them to whoever wants to buy them for cost. They're really beautiful, so check that out. I want to thank Irene for being here, and